All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode. Today we have Derek Moneyberg with us. So welcome to the show, man.
How you doing? Thank you for inviting me.
Very good. Grateful to have you on. So if you can just start us off a little bit more about you and what you do, and then we'll go from there.
Well, today I built a social media business or built a, online coaching business. And there was something that's kind of something of a hobby. Like, of course, I'm going to run it like a business, but the things that I spent my life doing earlier is, entrepreneurial things. I made my first entrepreneurial money when I was 7, doing, child type things, walking dogs and, you know, cutting grass, raking leaves, shoveling snow, washing the neighbor's car, all the little things that you could do as a child. But, I didn't have the happiest or most stable childhood. I had, my father wasn't around. My father was incarcerated he had a 15-year sentence for drug trafficking back in the day. It's back in the 80s. My mother wasn't the best mother. So, some people here could relate to that, wherever you came from, I think you could do better. But at that age, I felt like, I need to, make some money and contribute to the house. Like I'm like the man of the house now at 7 years old. And I was trying to do what I could to contribute a little bit,
Mhm.
Later on I was 10, I had, a paper route. By the time I was 11, I had 4 paper routes. And that was my first managerial role, that when I had 4 paper routes, I could have the other kids in the neighborhood do the paper route. And, I'd keep 25% and they'd get 75%. So I was still getting paid for my 1 paper route, but I didn't have to do the work anymore. I just had to manage and make sure that everything was well taken care of. And that kind of grew from there. And, later in life, the 3 main ways that I made money were, again, through entrepreneurship. And later I made enough money in that I started investing in real estate, by the time I was 19 and through my 20s and 30s and still today. And then I started making money in the stock market. I love distressed investing, and there's times where people panic and there's, a lot of misunderstanding about how the economy works or how the stock market works. And when people are panicked and scared and doing, crazy things, then sometimes there's very high quality assets that are on sale that are just mispriced. And if you have the liquidity to buy those in those moments, you can really make tremendous wealth later on. So, in my personal life, I made, over $10 million in profits from real estate. I made tens of millions, plural, in entrepreneurship. I made tens of millions, plural, in the stock market. And I created some coaching courses later for people that, maybe would like some guidance, some leadership, some mentorship in that area. It's not for normal people. It's for people that they're already doing well and they want to do even better. It's not, normal people don't have very good work ethic, normal people want to sleep in and not work too hard. And it's nothing I do is about get rich quick. Nothing I do it's not for average people. It's for people that are already doing well, but they know they could do even better. And, that's a priority for them to be successful in that area, in one of those areas or all of those areas, and be a well-rounded business person.
Mhm. Wow. Okay. I have a bunch of questions. First one that just came to mind, because I do think it is so misunderstood, is the stock market. And you were saying when people panic, so I kind of have 2 questions with that. First is like, there's the fear and greed index. Do you think that obviously there's more to buying decisions than just that, but do you think that is somewhat of a decent kind of buying metric to look at? That'd be my first one. And then second would be like, what do you think the most common misconceptions are with investing in the stock market?
Well, Warren Buffett has a fantastic quote, a very wise quote from years ago. He says, when other people are greedy, he becomes fearful. He thinks the
Yeah.
market's likely to crash. And when people are fearful, he becomes greedy and he wants to buy everything while it's on sale. I think there's tremendous wisdom in those few words. So I wouldn't disagree with that as a general investment thesis, but it's a lot more complex than just that. If you can't do basic math, if you don't understand accounting, if you don't understand economics, and you're at an extraordinary disadvantage against those who can read the financial statements and can do the math and have better predictive models of the economy, of how humans and governments are likely to behave over time, and the contortions and distortions that are going to be created in the global markets because of that. So, I don't disagree with what you said. I think that's a great, macro philosophy, but you need to understand the details, or you're at a tremendous disadvantage against those who do understand the details. And I'd say, as far as misconceptions, that this is an extension of what we were just saying, but there's times in the market where, people sit on the sidelines and they do nothing and they do nothing and they do nothing. And, the retail investor sees the market go up, 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 and they have that fear of missing out. And they think like, oh, I got to get in there. It went up 10% and then 12% and then 20%, year after year, and I'm missing out. And I got to get in there. And those are the same people that buy Bitcoin for 69,000 before it goes back to 16,000 or whatever it did, And I'm not a trendy person. I buy boring things. This is like, terrible marketing, but it's reality. Like, I buy boring things that are very high quality, that are just, they're not exciting at the moment. People are thinking like, energy pipelines, or, class A malls, or, high quality retailers. They're just not exciting. There'll be whatever the trendy thing is going to be, cryptocurrencies and NFTs. Remember how big NFTs were a couple of years ago, year and a half? Who the fuck's making money off NFTs now?
Nobody.
No, people are waking up and they're like, oh, I spent $400,000 on a monkey picture. And, what did I do? I could have bought a house with that money instead. Could have bought several houses, with money down, making a deposit and getting some bank loans. So, I mean, people made some extraordinarily foolish decisions with these trendy things. Well, people who do that, I buy boring things that are out of favor, and they make me tremendous money over time. And the risk profile is much less. The rewards can be, much higher overall. And it's not something that's exciting to young people or dumb people, because they don't really understand the economic consequences of their judgments or behaviors. So there's a lot of foibles that take place like that. And I just try to help to banish some of that ignorance. And I try to learn a few things every day and banish some of my ignorance. I try to help my clients to learn some things of, have good fundamental practices, of not get distracted with the new trendy thing. Just like, well, if we could buy something that's been working for decades or centuries or millennia, and it's been working consistently, probably it's going to be popular in the future to have like electricity in your home. Probably it's going to be popular in the future to heat your home in the winter. And some of those oil and gas companies, or, boring things like utilities, Pacific Gas and Electric is what I'm thinking about, because supplies, most of the energy to Northern California. That stock was like $8 a couple of years ago. A year and a half ago was $8, and now it's $17. And if you bought that on margin, you only had to put 30% down. So you would have turned $2.40, into $17. And, it's boring. It's a fucking electrical, it's an electrical grid. You're buying the distribution system of electricity to homes. It's not the most exciting things. I made a 500% return on that boring stuff. So.
Yeah. The older I get, and I'm 31 right now, so I mean to say I'm old, but I started investing very young, as well as I feel like you obviously did too. And I went down a path of investing in all these like small startups, and I've done well with it, but it's kind of a game of where, you lose a bunch and then you have a couple random, just like big winners, which that is a game that you could play. But as I've gotten older, I'm just like, the boring investments to me are the most exciting. Like, recently I've just been doing some like interest loaning, some Section 8 housing stuff. Like, I don't know, just stuff that to me just seems so beautifully basic. Even if it's like a 8% return or a 12, like, it doesn't need to be these like huge, crazy gains. It's just like, I don't know. I feel like once you get to a place where your entrepreneur, like you said, is making you tens of millions, then I'm not like thinking about the 500% return anymore. I'm more just like, how do I like not lose all this money? Like, how do I preserve it? So 8%, God bless it. That's fine. And I know with inflation, maybe that's not great, but I just am getting at that. I think boring is actually exciting in a way, to me. So,
if you have a good nest egg of capital, and you have steady growth that's outperforming inflation, then,
Yeah.
you can have a lot more leisure in your life. You're not stressed out about, 2 ticks up, 1 tick down, whatever's happening in the market. That, I think one other misconception I'll take a moment to make fun of is this day trading thing, that people think that, oh, I'm a day trader. And when I hear that, I roughly translate that into my head of like, oh, this guy just told me he's a dumbass. This guy just told me that he's extraordinarily stupid, because the numbers on day trading is, like 80%, I'm saying that wrong, is 80% of day traders lose 100% of their money in the first 90 days. So
Wow.
80% lose all within 3 months, 90 days. And that's the real data on it. And, to think that some schmuck that, probably never even went to business school, and he thinks that he understands what's going to happen in the economy, that, better than the algorithms do, that, like, you got guys out there that are managing tens of billions and hundreds of billions of dollars, and a couple of banks and firms that are managing trillions of dollars, trillions. And some day trader that doesn't know how many zeros are in a trillion, he thinks that he's going to have a better shot in the market than, these big, huge money managers that can hire the best data scientists, the best statisticians, the best computer scientists in the world, to build these algorithms and models. And you think that you're going to understand what's happening better than they understand what's happening is an extraordinary buffoonery. It's hard to imagine being that dumb. So
Yeah.
it's amazing somebody like that could, like, remember to breathe and keep their heart beating at the same time.
Dude, actually, when you lay it out, I mean, I kind of always thought that, but I never kind of thought of it in the way exactly as you just put it. But when you put it that way, yeah, it's pretty dumb. I mean, that's just pretty basic right there.
I spent 9 years in universities, and I went to graduate school at the Booth School of Business, University of Chicago's business school. It was ranked #1 out of 416 programs. It was ranked #1 while I'm there. And I don't know how to do day trading effectively, because nobody can, or they would. So the people that talk about that, or, you see, there's a popular trend a while back about a lot of online courses of, like, how to make all this money in day trading. If you were making all that money in day trading, would you have time to make a course about it?
Yep.
You don't. I built these courses that I did because I like the social ecosystem. I wanted to be around other business people. And so, for 2 reasons, really. I wanted to have a great mastermind group of other, high level business people that are well educated, that are ambitious. And I wanted to have a peer group of, very smart, high quality people like that. Secondarily, one of my biggest frustrations in life is I didn't have very good mentors or very good role models when I was young. And I'd like to be able to help other people. I don't raise kids. I don't have kids. I don't want to raise kids. I don't want to raise a dog. I have a rabbit and a couple house plants, and that's all the responsibility that I want for keeping something alive. But the kind of the nurturing part of my personality is I am happy to help somebody else in business, or, point them in the right direction, that, if they're serious, if they're dedicated, if they have that internal motivation and they wish they had some help, which I felt that frustration when I was young. And, a lot of my clients are those type of people. And I do find quite a great joy in, having, late nights with those people, or answering their questions, and, helping them understand what's happening at given points in the economy and how they might profit from it. So it's been.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. No, I was just going to say, and I do actually, I want to hear about all your different courses. Just right before we get to that, I wanted to ask more about, so when you were younger, you said like 7 years old, you were already starting to kind of, I guess, notice that your mom and dad maybe weren't, I don't know, doing things exactly the best way possible. Let's word it that way. So, you kind of step up and you're helping out and stuff. I'm curious, like, how did your relationship with your mom and dad evolve, and, like, where is it, like, today, in a sense? Like,
I never really had a good relationship with my mother, and that's unfortunate. She had, I think she had a lot of personal problems. I never met somebody, and I hate to say this, for you to say that about your own mom, but the truth of this is, like, I never met somebody that had, like, more of, like, a victim identity, that, anything wrong in her life was somebody else's fault. And, usually my father or me were the common persons to be blamed for whatever, for her shortcomings. And that was very important to me. That I learned very early that I'm like, oh, like it's very hard to get ahead in life if every time you make a mistake, you externalize that and blame somebody else. And, I really made that note of, kind of, younger than I would have liked to. I didn't enjoy it at the time, but I really made that note that like the people that seem to be doing well in life have a strong sense of personal responsibility for their outcomes. That you have a strong sense of like, well, I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to create this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to earn my spot at some level, So I think that was a very important lesson from my mother that, she, and again, I hate to say this, but, one observation I had is, she would frequently, stub her toe, like hit her foot on a door or a specific piece of furniture we had. And 2 months later, she'd do it again. And then again, this is the same damn door, the same thing. And she'd say, fucking door. And I thought that was extraordinary that like, it's one level of crazy. If you hit your foot on the door and you curse at the door, but somewhere in your mind, you still make the mental note of like, hey, let's make sure we don't do that again. Let's not do that in the future. That hurt my foot. That was kind of painful. So that's one level of crazy, that you curse at the door at all, but you at least make the note to yourself. It's a different level of crazy when you keep engaging in the same behavior repetitively and externalize the fault of this phenomenon to the door instead of to yourself. So I remember looking at that and I'm being like, like as a child, I was, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. And I'm like, that's kind of fucked up.
A little bit. Yeah, I can't disagree there.
So it gave me a different perspective about like cause and effect relationships. And it made me think of like, well, what are the things that you have control over that you could change? Or what are the things you could have control over that you should not do? What are the things you have control over that you should definitely do? And, it did make me think about cause and effect relationships much differently. And sort of internalizing a sense of personal responsibility or having a internal locus of control instead of, externalizing events to others. So I think that was a very important lesson. So unfortunately, we never had a great relationship. She's passed away a couple of years ago. She's not alive any longer, but I did learn some valuable lessons that, maybe weren't pleasant, but very valuable that helped my life,
Mm-hmm. And then it's up to you. Don't have to share if you don't want, but what about your dad? Just
well, he wasn't really around so much. I don't really have anything negative I don't really have negative thoughts about my father or anything, harsh I would say about him at all. But I think he's a pretty ambitious guy. And, his father was, I don't know if his father even went to high school at all. He maybe had an 8th grade education. And, his grandfather would have been a coal miner that's, had virtually no education or, no schooling. Did manual labor. So, he came from an environment where, they're kind of hardworking Polish guys that, the people that stayed in Poland died in the Holocaust. My father's side of the family were Polish Jews. So the people that stayed there died. And the people that left were kind of hardworking, coal miner, factory worker type people in America. And, my father was willing to work, but he got involved, back in the 70s and 80s and selling drugs. And he did very well at it, frankly. He made a lot of money. And in the early 80s, he had a couple $1 million. And, being a multimillionaire in the early 80s was really something. There was a lot of money at that time. Now, he went to prison for a long time and the government took, most everything we had. And that wasn't very pleasant. But, before that time, he was kind of busy working on his business and didn't spend a lot of time with me. And then after that time, he was, incarcerated for a lot of my childhood. So, by the time he came home, I was pretty old, and it was, it wasn't, we never had like a traditional father or son type relationship, but, we've been cooperative with each other, and I wish him well and he wishes me well. And, if he called me and I could help him with something, I probably would, and vice versa. But we never had a traditional father son type relationship,
Gotcha.
I think the lesson I learned from that is I watched that and I thought, it's great to have that money. Money gives you an awful lot of freedom. And anybody that says that, there's people out there say, oh, money is not everything, Derek. Shut the fuck up. Money, if even having $1 million adds 11 years to your life expectancy, even a $1 million net worth adds 11 years to your life expectancy. You know, money is the difference between spending your time doing the things that you would like to do and living a fulfilling life versus showing up at a bitch ass job and doing what you're told to do and living a much less fulfilling life. Asking some fucking bitch, hey, can I go, you know, is it okay for me to use the bathroom? Imagine being an adult man. You know, I'm 44 right now. Imagine being a 44-year-old man and asking if it's okay to use the bathroom. Asking if it's okay that, you know, hey, your wife, you want to take your wife on vacation, but you got to ask your boss first. So think about that. So, you know, money is the difference of having a tremendous amount of freedom and luxury in life, and quite literally living longer, having more safety for your family, more security for your family, you know, the highest quality healthcare, the highest quality and best of everything, you know, versus being fucking poor and, you know, having tremendous limitations in your life. So I liked that money idea. I just didn't want to, you know, approach that the way my father did. That was a very stark warning where I'm like, well, you know, how can I earn a better spot in a way that's sustainable? And I think that got me, you know, thinking about sustainability that way, that even in a lot of my investments are a bit more conservative, a bit more sustainable. There's times where there's tremendous money that can be made and you have to be aggressive, but I like to be aggressive when the numbers are in my favor. And that encouraged me to spend a lot more time in university, a lot more time working hard, you know, to lose some sleep when I was young and, you know, work building my net worth and building my reputation. And so I wanted to make a lot of money, but I wanted to do it in a way that was legal and sustainable. And, you know, that was also a big influence in my life. So that was also very useful. Not fun at the time, but very useful later.
Yeah, man, I hear you. At least just to be able to sleep at night. I could see how, like, I forget the movie, what it was, but the guy who, it's with Tom Cruise, and he's one of the plane guys who gets the cocaine from Pablo Escobar and goes back and forth, and he's making tons of millions of dollars, which I totally get how, you know, if you did that once, you could totally get sucked into that and you're making all this money. But at least for me personally, if I was making all that money illegally, my health, I think I'm already like paranoid a little, you know, like, I don't know, like, I don't need to be wondering, like, because I think with that stuff, it's not if you get caught, it's when you get caught. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I just can't even imagine that lifestyle. I feel like it would be so freaking stressful. So either way, just saying. A question I wanted to ask for you too is, like, for your courses, what are like main, it seems like it's a networking opportunity, but also what would somebody hope to achieve or learn when in a course? And then I think what would be helpful too is like a story, and you don't have to share their name, but like somebody that's gone through your course and like where they were before and then where they were after. I feel like that kind of helps people visualize things a lot.
I mean, I really have a broad array of clients. I have a global business. I've traveled to 66 countries, I've been to, you know, a lot of countries all around the world, and I have clients from around the world. And, you know, I think that if I had to say a stereotypical client is, you know, over half of my clients are college educated already. And they're somebody who's, you know, intelligent, hardworking, they're already doing well. They're already doing above average in life, but they know they could do even better. And, you know, I had a few guys that stand out, and I have some female clients too, but, you know, men tend to be more focused on earning their financial freedom and being a provider for their family. I do have some women that are higher level professionals or, you know, entrepreneurs. But, you know, most of my clients are men, 90% are men. But yeah, there's, you know, a fella that he was a doctor already. He was in medical school when we started working together, and he finished medical school, and he's a doctor now in Europe. But you know, he made so much money in the stock market from, you know, 2020 onwards that he doesn't have time to work as a doctor. That he's, you know, become more of an investor than a medical doctor, and
wow,
he's kind of lost interest in it. He's, you know, made a you know, about $3 million in a couple of years' time. And, you know, he had a little money to start with, obviously, to be able to multiply that and do that. But, you know, has a lot more freedom than he expected to, and doesn't want to be at a hospital for 90 hours a week, you know. Another client is, the guy was already successful. He sold a small business. He was already a multimillionaire when we met. And, he asked me, he came to one of my live events, and then he started taking my mentoring courses. Over time, at one time he was up at least $8 million, and maybe he's done a lot better than that since then, but he's built a real estate portfolio, has worked on a lot of investments that, he and I have talked through together, and some things that he did independently that I wasn't involved in, but he took some of the frameworks that he learned from me and turned that into some serious money. There's some kids that are younger that are, one guy was 19 when we started working together, and maybe he had 10 grand. He did a little online marketing and little, mentorship stuff earlier, selling some online courses and stuff. And, we started at 19. He was an intern. He's 24 right now. And going into 2020, into that recession in 2020, kid maybe had $100,000 net worth, maybe less than that, and turned that into 1.1 million. So he was 23 when he became a millionaire. He's 24 now, and he has a couple of rental properties, has a nice stock portfolio, and has some entrepreneurial income that he's making as well. And he really put those things to use. So there's a female that I'm thinking of that she's working as an auctioneer, which is a little funny to me, but when she talks like funny, like an auctioneer does, it's kind of cute and funny. But she was doing that as an employee, and she built her own business, and she's making a couple $100,000 a year now, where, I don't know what a female auctioneer makes before then, maybe 30, 40 grand is kind of a part-time thing that you do here and there. But when she started organizing, when she understood how to organize the business structure on the back end and use some of the connections that she already had to take over the full business side instead of just being a representative for somebody else's business. I'm sure that went from something like 40,000, and she told me she's making 200,000, and she's still in her 20s. She's a young girl, so 27, 28 years old. So there's a lot of people that came from different backgrounds or different walks of life, and I just try to help them understand some pitfalls to avoid and give them a lot of structure of, these aren't fun courses, by the way. This is terrible marketing, but these are not like, it's not like you're going to have fun. You're going to work your ass off. If you're not willing to work 20 or 25 hours a week, you're not going to be really good at anything. So it's for people that are, that have a good work ethic. They're already pretty intelligent. They don't have to know anything about business. I have clients that are from, medical background or engineers or things like that. But they have a good work ethic, and they're willing to make a sincere effort and put in the time and be a little uncomfortable in the short term to have, significantly better results over time.
Mm-hmm. And sorry, as you were talking, I was actually just bringing up a link and checking out the course. So basically, like the course, it's for anybody that is doing well, wants to do better, and is willing to put in the work, obviously, but it is kind of like overarching, like, here's how you can build wealth. And it could be for anybody's situation, but it's kind of like putting in the steps. Like, would it kind of be like, hey, first you got to make money, ideally through entrepreneurship, but you could do it through a job like a doctor, right? That's a very high paying job. And then from there, there's these other elements that you help them with, like maybe the boring investments that you spoke of. Does it kind of do that? Like it just walks you step by step into that stuff?
There's an introductory course is probably the right starting point for a lot of people. It's called the 10 Commandments of Wealth. And, the 10 Commandments of Wealth is exactly as it sounds, is 10 modules in there that, explain in detail, both in academic detail and case studies of, what are the 10 things that you really need to know if you're serious about creating significant wealth in your lifetime. In addition to those 10 educational modules, the program's like 100 hours long. It's silly long. It's very comprehensive. Those 10 training modules are about 30 something hours. And then there's a lot of supplemental things that I'm a nerd, bro. I'm a nerd.
Dude, that's so sick.
It's very comprehensive, and it's very intense. In addition to that, I did 50 interviews with world champion of different sorts, world champion fighters, world champion people that won the Super Bowl, people that are many Hall of Fame athletes, people that won various Olympic medals, gold medals in wrestling, gold medals in volleyball, gold medals in speed skating, gold medals in boxing, etc. So there's a lot of Olympic athletes in there. There's a lot of, Hall of Fame level athletes. And the reason that I asked them to to do some interviews for that program is to talk about, like, what are the attributes of a winner? What does it take to be a champion? What does it take to earn the, Hall of Fame level results in various endeavors? And I think that work ethic is it tremendously, it translates right back and forth with business, that the people that put in the work, the people that are willing to do, you have the best information, the best coaches, you put in the time, you do the work, those people are going to have the best results. And, I'll stress again, this is not for anybody who wants to get rich quick. This is for somebody who is serious about building wealth over time, having a lot of financial freedom in your future. It's not going to help you get rich quick. If you want to get rich quick, you're probably going to be bankrupt quick. So there's not just there's not millions of free dollars just laying around out there that you can be a lazy bitch and collect all this money. It's the world doesn't work that way. But if financial freedom is something that's important, creating significant wealth is important, the 10 commandments of wealth is a great, step in that direction that'll give you a lot of solid frameworks and foundations. And there's more advanced courses that we could look at after that might make sense for somebody who wants to go forward and spend personal time together.
Awesome. Okay. I have a couple more questions, and then I want to leave it to you to share anything that we didn't cover that you might have wanted to. So my next question is, like, for in crypto, what do you have an overall thought? Like, there's some people that are like just Bitcoin maximalists, some are all about Ethereum or these other, like, do you have kind of a foot in the sand about it? Or are you just kind of like, hey, it might work, it might not? What are your overall thoughts on it, I guess?
I love the idea of it. So first of all, I've never invested a penny in crypto, and I don't believe in it at all. But I love the idea. I'll explain why. Why. Okay. I love the idea of a decentralized currency where a person could maintain some privacy and autonomy to live their life, the way that we traditionally have in the United States and in a lot of places around the world. So I love the idea that of having assets or, an alternative currency that would be a hedge for inflation, that you don't have the government's paws in there, the way that they manipulate the United States currency, or, the European central bank manipulates the euro, et cetera. The politicians, inflation only comes from one place. Milton Friedman talked about this 60 years ago. No one has the ability to create inflation except your government. The inflation comes from printing money. And they can constantly devalue the currency year after year and decade after decade. And whenever there's an emergency, whenever some recession or hysteria like COVID comes up, that's an opportunity for the politicians to go. They printed $7 trillion in less than 2 years. All right, in 2020 and 2021, they put out $7 trillion between the overt money printing that was authorized by Congress, and then the expansion of the Federal Reserve balance sheet. $7 trillion. That's tremendous. That's 40% of all the money that's in existence was printed in like 18 months during that time. All right. So I love the idea of cryptocurrency, that it's supposed to be, a hedge for inflation, allows you to maintain some privacy or autonomy, et cetera. But the thing is this, the US government, as well as the European Central Bank and other large governments around the world, the last thing they're going to do is give up control of the money supply. So I think that they're going to play a bait and switch game. I think they've let the cryptocurrency run as long as it has, because they like the idea of the populace, of the normal people being excited about a digital currency. Then at some point they're going to step in and they're going to say, we've heard you. You're demanding a digital currency. And they're going to point at all these little shit coins and, rip-off schemes and pump and dumps that have happened over the years, and say, there's too much volatility. There's too much, fraud going on with these, little crypto things. So we're going to create the digital dollar, which, by the way, I've been talking about this for 3-4 years. And now in July, they're launching the digital dollar. And I've been talking about it for years. All right. So they're going to go create their digital dollar. And they're say, like, a step or two later, they're going to use the same laws that they already have. You and I can't go print paper money. We can't go print coins or paper money that competes against the US dollar. You go to prison for 30 years. You go to federal prison for 30 years. It's called counterfeiting. They don't allow you to do that. And they're going to use the same laws that they've already had on the books for over 100 years, and they're going to go apply that to digital assets. So as soon as they launch that digital dollar, I don't know if it's 3 months in the future, 3 years in the future, I don't know when, But I anticipate they're going to say, we can't have these other digital currencies that are causing confusion or et cetera, and they're going to outlaw that. And they've already done it in some countries. And I think they're going to do it in the US and around Europe as well. And if they do that effectively, and then they take paper currency and coins out of the economy, then the government has, 100% awareness of everything you spend every penny on. They know every penny that comes into your accounts. They know every penny that goes out of your accounts. They know what you bought. They know where you bought it. They know where you were. They have the perfect ability to track you, and you have zero privacy. And I can't imagine any future government that wouldn't like to do that. It's terrible for the individual. It's terrible for you. It's terrible for normal people, because it infringes on your freedom so much. But it gives them, a tremendous awareness of what citizens are doing with the money. It gives them the ability to control, they'll have preferred government vendors. They could create a scheme where you have expiring currencies, where if you don't spend your money, it expires. So that they'll create, that's called a bail-in, essentially, or a bail-in is a tangential thought that's a little too complex for what we're talking about right now. But they'll find other schemes like this to make wealthy people less wealthy and to make everybody more dependent on the government. And I find that quite frightening. And I think it's too enticing for them to not do it. So as much as I love the idea of having these alternative currencies that would hedge for inflation, hold their value, something more similar to the gold standard before the Bretton Woods agreement that took us off of the gold standard. As much as I love that idea, I just don't see that the politicians are going to allow that to last for so much longer. And I think it'd be great, but I don't think they're going to allow it over time.
Got it. Yeah. That makes sense to me. Yeah. Interesting. My last question for you is, overall, where do you think not to get all political, but I guess that's what I'm doing. Overall, where do you think the country's going, like the United States? You think we're heading in a good direction, bad direction, or just overall thoughts on things?
I'm not a very political person, and I'm not going to duck your question. I'll share my thoughts about it, but it's my job to make money whoever gets elected. Okay. My one little vote is not going to decide the next election. And I don't even know if we have fair elections anymore. I'm not sure about that. I think some states, if you look at the numbers in Arizona, Pennsylvania, maybe Wisconsin, Minnesota, there's Georgia, there's a lot of questions about what happened in the last couple of elections. And I know numbers very well. I know statistics very well. When I look at Arizona, Pennsylvania, I mean, that doesn't look right to me. It doesn't look right. So regardless of whatever happens, it's my job to be a beneficiary of whoever they elect is going to have some crazy policies, or they're going to change some things and say, okay, well, if that's what the new playing field is going to look like, how do we position ourselves to be a beneficiary of that? Now, as far as, freedom in America, no, I think one party, I think both parties are full of shit. And I think one party has lost its mind tremendously more than the other. And they don't even love the country anymore. It's just one communist policy after another that it's eroding your freedom. It's eroding your independence. And they don't want too many people they don't want you to be autonomous. They don't want you to be wealthy. They don't want you to be a small business owner that provides wages to other people, and other people are looking to you to have cooperative alliances to feed their family and to continue their way of life. So I think they'd like to hurt a lot of small businesses. I think the government would like to have a lot more control and, less independence of the citizens and more central control. And that's very frightening. So yeah. I'm not excited about where I see things going with the government. I'd say I'm, pretty libertarian minded in general, that I'm not asking anybody to support me. I'm not asking for a subsidy. I support your right socially. I'd say socially, I'm very liberal. Do whatever you want. Make yourself happy. But don't ask me to pay the fucking bill for your mistakes. And don't ask your audience or my audience or our friends and family to pay the bill for mistakes that we didn't make. So I support your right to pursue your happiness, to pursue your freedom. But don't ask me to pay the bill when you fuck something up.
I love it. So yeah, man, I loved having you on, and if you're down, we'll do maybe a part 2 about some of your other courses and stuff down the road or something. But
Sure, be happy to.
if there's anything that we did not share that you want to share, please do. And then, let people know where they can get the first course, just main website, social medias, like how can they stay in contact?
They can look for Derek Moneyberg, Moneyberg. They're going to find some dope shit. I got a few million followers on Instagram. I got a nice following on TikTok and YouTube, etc. If you're one of those people that I talked about, you're doing well already. You're serious about your future. You're already probably doing above average, but you could do even better. You're not living to your full potential. There's a lot of money and a lot of freedom and a lot of opportunity being left behind. Click that link. Imagine you can post a link in the on the page here. Click that link, and that'll take you to my 10 Commandments program. If success is something you're serious about, if more freedom and independence is something you're serious about, I'd be really happy to help. And Tyler, I appreciate you inviting me on and getting to know each other a bit, sharing a bit of my background or having a few laughs with your audience. So I appreciate that. Thank you. For those of you watching, if you're serious about more freedom and independence, click that link. Let me help you make some more prosperity in your life. Be excited to get to know you personally.
Thanks again, man.